This week in CIST 2611, we'll look at Chapter 14, Physical Security and Disaster Recovery. So the objective of this chapter is to look at understanding physical security, how to implement physical security, also understanding disaster recovery and business continuity. All right, so sometimes physical security is really overlooked, and it is very important for our overall security plans. So when we think of security, a lot of security professionals, IT professionals, are thinking of security in the concepts of firewalls, antiviruses, and so forth. Keep in mind, though, that it is important to keep your physical security in place as well. Keep access to buildings, to server rooms, to the computers, to the building. Keep all that secure as well. Now, physical security is going to begin by controlling access to the building and the key rooms within the building. So keeping access control to the actual building, to the rooms that hold your servers, sensitive data. At our most basic, security is having a locked door on the server room. You also want to have some way to control who has access to different areas. But things we want to secure is the perimeter and the building grounds. One way we can do that is locks on the building, fences around the perimeter. The building entry points may be, locks on the buildings there as well. It may be locks, different types of key card accesses. Inside the building, there are security measures that you can place inside there. Once again, the data center, server room security, have it locked, limit access to that, and also the computer equipment protection. If you have mobile devices, you want to make sure that you have those, maybe where you have a lock on a laptop, things of those natures. Video monitoring is also something that can help with your physical security. This is something that's become more affordable. The cameras should be placed so they have an unobstructed view of areas that you want to monitor. At minimum, you should have these on entrances and exits. Should have camera monitoring. One thing to keep in mind to consider the type of camera you're placing. They are more affordable, but you still want to make sure that you have a good quality camera. There are 4 different categories for fire extinguishers. So you want to make sure that you have the correct category, correct class of fire extinguisher, depending on what you are trying to protect. Fire suppression systems, these are common in larger office buildings. They are divided into 3 categories. The wet pipe, which always contains the water. It's the most popular and reliable. Does have the drawback it can freeze in the winter because it does have the water in it. So the pipe breaks can cause floods. A dry pipe is no water in the pipe. This is something that's going to be preferred for computer installations. So with this, the water is held back by a clapper. So the air blows out of the pipe and the water then flows. The pre-action is the most recommended for computer rooms, and this combines both the dry and wet pipes. So the water is going to be released in the pipe first, then after the fuse melts in the nozzle, the water is dispersed. Crime prevention through environmental design. That's a security concepts that organizations use. What it does is the layout and design is set up to reduce crimes. Now, there are several different methods you can use this with. One is incorporate barriers into the layout and design of the building. You can put big metal poles, concrete poles in front of the building to stop cars from ramming the building. Some other things you can set up, fences, lighting, on alarms. All these can deter physical entrances into a building. You can have visitors sign in, visitors be escorted in the building, or have all deliveries to a central location. The section here about having visitors escorted in the building, you never want someone walking around your building unescorted in a sensitive area. So when we're talking about disaster recovery, first we'll talk about disasters. That's any natural or man-made event that disrupts the operation of a business. When it's in a significant way, and it's going to be considered that a considerable and coordinated efforts required to achieve a recovery. So disasters can be natural disasters. It can be earthquakes, hurricanes, tornadoes, fire, lightning. It can be man-made, whether it's sabotage or espionage. Um, a disaster could be someone clicking on a link and infecting the organization. So to deal with this, we do have a disaster recovery plan. A couple of key points of a DRP is to locate alternate facilities, getting equipment to those facilities, installing and configuring software, setting up the network of the new facility, and then contacting staff, vendors, and customers. That's all things that can be part of a disaster recovery plan. There are a couple of ways that you can set up the alternate facilities. You can set up a hot site, a cold site, or a warm site. A hot site, basically it's a second company that's ready to go. So you have all of your software, you have minimal disruption. Your utilities, your equipment, your furniture, everything's already set up, ready to go. You just maybe have to load your latest backups, or they may already be loaded. Cold site's going to be the cheapest. Basically, you're just having the bare minimum, maybe just be an empty building. All right, business continuity plan. So if you're going to, this is something that's going to be similar to a disaster recovery plan. It does have a different focus though. Okay, so the disaster recovery plan is designed to get the company back to full functionality as quickly as possible. The business continuity plan is designed to get the minimal business functions up and running so that you have some business happening as a temporary solution. With this, you must consider which systems are the most critical for your business, and then have that alternate plan in place in case those systems goes down. Now, this is something that doesn't have to be perfect, just functional. A business impact analysis that estimates what damage to your organization a given disaster might cause. So to consider this, you would look at a maximum tolerable downtime. So that's where you're asking how long can this system be down before the effect is going to be catastrophic on the business. The business may not be able to recover if this system is down for too long. Another item that you need to consider is the mean time to repair. So once again, it's how long is this system going to be down? How long is it going to take us to repair this system if it is down? You may also look at the mean time between failures. How often in between repairs is this the service going to fail, or how often is the service going to fail? And this are all things that help you with the business impact analysis. Now, once we talk about recovery time objective. That's the time that you intend to have a service back up and running if there is a failure. So if you have a hard drive, go out in your computer, your recovery time is how long is it going to take you to put a new hard drive in, load the operating system, load the programs, and get it back set up to where it's back in production. Recovery point objective is how much data can you tolerate losing. So that is something else that you consider your impact on your business. You want to test your disaster recovery plan and your business continuity planning periodically. Now we see here we got 5 types of tests. They're listed from most intrusive and difficult, from least to most intrusive and difficult. So the document review checklist. All right, so this type of testing, this is usually done by an individual. This is where you simply review the disaster recovery plan or the business continuity plan and make sure everything's checked off, everything is covered. Walk through tabletop. This is going to be something that's done by a team. You have one team that'll sit in a conference room and go through your BCP or DRP plans, discuss the different scenarios. So, for example, in your textbook, it gives an example of, what if there's a fire in the server room? Or what if you have a lightning strike and it takes out different areas of your business, of your building? So in here, you want to check and just go through and see what is adequately covered and what needs to be addressed. The simulation is where you are simulating a type of disaster. So this could be something that's done by a team or an individual. So in this, you look at the what if scenarios. So you may go to your network administrator and say, what is your plan should the router die? Or what is your plan should this segment of the network go down? So what you're doing here is you're making sure that everybody knows what to do if a disaster occurs. Parallel, this test is going to look at make sure that all the backup systems come online. This would be including backup power to the systems, any kind of secondary communications, whatever you need for the business to continue. Finally, the last one is the cutoff or the /full interruption. Okay, this is the ultimate test. This is where you actually shut down the real systems and see if your business continuity plan or your disaster recovery plan works. Keep in mind with this, this test is twofold. One, if you don't do this type of testing, you don't really 100% know if your plans are workable. But keep in mind that you can actually cause the disaster or cause a disaster if your plans go wrong and you cannot get your system back online or your company back online. Backups ensure data can be recovered. Okay, we got three primary backup types. You have a full, which takes all the changes. A differential is where all changes are backed up since the last full backup. And incremental is where all changes since the last backup of any type. Now keep in mind there is no best backup strategy. So whichever one you select is going to be the one that's best for your organization's needs. It is important though that you periodically test your backup strategy. Now, one of the effective ways to test your backup strategy is where you actually restore the backup data from a test to a test machine. You should have a baseline established on a machine. So once you install and back up a test machine, you should be able to compare that to your baseline or your current operating machine that's in production. RAIDs are redundant array of inexpensive disks. Okay, this creates a fault tolerance and spreading the data across multiple disks. So if one disk fails, the content can be reconstructed from data from the other disk in the set. There are many different types of RAIDs, and your textbook chapter does go over the different RAIDs, RAID 0, RAID 1, and so forth. So this allows your server to have more than one hard drive. So if that one hard drive fails, the system can keep functioning. So chapter 14 covers the physical security. We want to make sure that we have access to the building, secure video monitoring, fire detection, and suppression systems are an important part of IT security as well. Use the correct version of the fire extinguisher and the correct version for wet pipe, dry pipes, or pre-actions based on our need for the organization. And then there's some general security, may include having people sign in, the physical security, maybe something, barriers, disaster recovery plans. They are aimed at restoring full normal operations, while business continuity plans are designed to maintain some level of operations until the full recovery can be achieved. You can conduct a business impact analysis, and that's going to help predict what the consequences will be of a disaster. And It's very important to keep a data backup, as this is a big part of your disaster recovery.